I just realized that I haven't actually been in this room since my first art history lectures at the age of 20. And I was a very new student from another city than Oslo. But it was important for me to discover this city through those lectures in this room, and also with the guided tours we had with the architects or teaching at the course. It's, of course, a very long time ago. And then I wouldn't quite think I would be able to stand here talking about a building protection project. So I'm very happy to be here with you, and it's a privilege to meet you all. My time is a bit limited, so first I would do the basics about this building protection center called Murbyen Oslo. This is a center established in 2017, and it is, as Michelle mentioned, for the preservation of Oslo's historical apartment buildings in stone, brick, and mortar. I will come back to that in a little while. It started as a project of the National Trust of Norway, Oslo and Akershus branch, and it was originally funded by the Ministry of Climate and Environment through the Norwegian Directorate of Cultural Heritage. It is now run as an independent organization with additional funding from the municipality of Oslo as well as private foundations. At the moment, we do have a staff of 1.5 person. It has been a bit reduced. In addition to that, we do have consultants working on an hourly basis, and they are very valuable for the organization, as long as the volunteers. We do enjoy a close collaboration with consultancies and the building industries. We have a board with representatives from the Department of Cultural Heritage in the municipality of Oslo, from the main administration of the National Trust of Norway, the Oslo and Akershus branch of the National Trust, which is me. We have also a representative from the Masons Association and from private consultancies. So the main focus is domestic apartment buildings from the period of 1840 to 1930. But before I go on explaining why we chose this, it is, I think, necessary to also explain the concept of the Norwegian word murgård, which I'm going to use quite a bit. And it is an apartment building or a tenement house with stone, brick, and mortar as dominant materials. Oslo, or Christiania as it was called in the 19th century, grew immensely from the time it became the capital of the new Norway in 1814 and until the turn of the century. So the old city is basically within here. And this map is from 1887, and you can see how it grew just in those decades. All the red parts are new development areas. There were lots of people moving to the city, and they needed a place to stay. So going from the old city structure, as we see an example of up at the corner, down to these new modern apartment buildings were an important way to find housing for all the new people coming to the city. Today, Oslo has a lot of streets built in this period, particularly from around 1870 up to 1900. And many people believe that at Murbyen Oslo we are concerned about preserving and helping out in the preservation of the most beautiful, most advanced blocks of apartments from that period. That is not the case. We are equally concerned about the more modest buildings. They are an important part of the city. And this is very typical of the kind of murgårder one would find in the eastern part of Oslo, but also in between everything else. It is also very important for us to tell that it doesn't have to be a perfect building for being protected. We also are concerned about buildings that have gone through a transformation, not necessarily a positive one. Here we do see a building in the eastern part of Oslo, photographed in 1932, and we can see that it's already started to be modernized. Look at the ground floor. This is what it looks like today. Luckily, this hasn't been the case for most of the buildings from that period, but there certainly are buildings like that scattered around all over Oslo. The reasons for this can be many. It could be that after the Second World War, the ornamentation of that period was regarded to be old-fashioned, rather ugly. They took it away. They wanted it to have a modernist appearance. It could also be that it was in quite a bad shape, so they took it down for security reasons, not to harm passers-by. This building here, by the way, is where the painter Edvard Munch made his first version of his iconic painting, The Sick Child or Sick Girl. So this was one of the places he lived. I would show you this also to stress the fact that some of these buildings have recently been beautifully restored. This is practically next door from Edvard Munch's building. It had the same kind of appearance. Last year, this was finished. The walls, the facades were reconstructed according to the old architect's drawings. And at Murbyen, we do stress the possibility of doing this if there is an economy, also because this certainly is much better for the building. We mustn't forget that ornamentation, the lines, how the building facade was constructed originally also has a practical purpose. It should lead water away. So these strip buildings are in trouble today, many of them, that is. The period of 1840 to 1930, when Oslo grew so much, has a lot of stylistic periods. So at Murbyen, we work with late classicism. We work with historicism, which has different kind of neo-styles. Here we do have neo-Renaissance, neo-Baroque, neo-Gothic, neo-Romanesque, and neo-Rococo. And also, at the turn of the century, Art Nouveau or Jugendstil. A bit further on, around the First World War, what we call Nordic Neo-Baroque. There's a lot of it around. And 20s Classicism. And in the end, also functionalism. We do care about the early functionalist blocks as well. And they may have a structure basically of concrete, but the facades, the windows, everything else was still made with traditional materials. And we see that they also need advice today, the owners of these buildings. In Oslo, more than 3,500 apartment buildings date from the period of 1840 to 1930. And today, that is a great number of apartments, something between 25,000 and 30,000. It's a lot of people living in these kind of buildings. It means that it's 20% of the inner city domestic architectural heritage. And then we haven't counted freestanding villas of that period. And of course, we haven't counted public buildings or other structures dating from the same period. So it's a lot of it in Oslo, particularly of the historicism era. The great majority today, luckily, is listed as architectural heritage for preservation. So why preserve? It was the fastest growing European capital during the last decades of the 19th century. And it means that since there is so much of this architecture around, people haven't really looked at it as valuable. It's been an everyday thing. The city is relatively well preserved today, and we think that it is a vital part of the city's visual and historical identity. It has, though, had bad reputation, at least among architects and other people concerned about architectural heritage. So quite a bit has disappeared. Luckily, this is not the case anymore. But we would stress that preservation is also an important part in the act of reduction of climate emissions. So the strategy of Murbyen is to connect owners of murgårder with a responsible building industry. We want to connect cultural heritage expertise and the building industry and offer membership for various acting parts in the preservation industry. It is very important to keep traditional craftsmanship and techniques alive. Very, very important. We must stress that a lot. We do also find it important to enhance owners' competence and knowledge about the buildings they live in. So to do that, we offer free visits to murgårder. We do have consultants giving advice to owners. And this is sometimes what we would meet. Luckily, it's not that common anymore, but this is illustrating a typical kind of problem, the use of wrong building materials in recent times. So almost everything of the problems around has to do with wrong materials or craftsmanship that certainly wasn't good enough. And a lot of this happened in the 1980s. This is another building, an example. Both of these have been restored quite recently. But you see that in most cases there are minor issues, but they certainly are popping up everywhere. So it is also important for us to stress that we're not looking for perfection. Things shouldn't look new. They should be allowed to have their age. We do arrange courses in traditional craftsmanship. It is important, as I said, to increase the knowledge of these techniques. We also have courses for apprentices in the masonry professions. There is also courses in traditional decor and ornamentation. There are courses in traditional painting techniques for apprentices and students, and theoretical courses. We also do a lot of outreach. It is important to reach a general audience. So there is a website with information, advice, historical articles, and a guide of architectural styles, which has been proved to be surprisingly popular. We also do digital city walks and live city walks. And we are present in the social medias. We have 2 physical exhibitions, open days. We give talks and lectures for a broad audience, and also hold courses for children in traditional masonry techniques. But, ending, there is a battle ongoing for survival. I mentioned that originally the center was financed by the ministry. The ministry gives a certain amount of money to the Directorate of Cultural Heritage. It has been earmarked for Murbyen earlier on. That is over. Simply because it's a principle for the government now not to earmark smaller sums. And it is a smaller sum going to Murbyen. So the Directorate of Cultural Heritage has chosen not to forward any more money to Murbyen. We are surviving on money from the municipality of Oslo and also from private foundations. We do hope, though, that we will get a status as the Building Protection Center of Oslo. The city board is now looking into establishing a formal frame for the Murbyen, so we're positive. And we also hope that the ministry again will earmark a budget for the Murbyen Protection Center. So I've showed you, it's time to stop. I've showed you, and get up, it's my wake-up call. I've showed you the door of the Ministry of Finance. hoping that will open, and also a building soaring to new heights. And I hope that is going to be symptomatic for the future of the Murbyen. So thank you very much.